there are things known and there are things unknown. And in between are the doors of perception. And the doorways of perception are now open. All around us, there exists worlds of the seen and the unseen. In a universe of endless possibilities, we should never limit ourselves to a single perspective. For in order to hunt the shadows and become true explorers of the unknown and the unexplained, we must sometimes take a paranormal point of view.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your humble host, Mr. Dennis Carroll, and this is episode 101 of Paranormal Point of View, Hunting the Shadows. Welcome aboard tonight, and we're gonna have an interesting show ahead, definitely. And we're gonna talk about some stuff that we're doing in the background, maybe some other things that we're gonna get in touch with tonight. And then we've got our great fellow here. We got a good fellow here with us tonight. Our main man in the Los Angeles Bureau, Mr. Bigfoot Dwarf, will be along here shortly. I want to welcome you all here. Thank you so much for your support, for showing up and being here for us. Episode 100 was Wednesday. If you missed it, boy, did you miss a good one. You need to go back and check that out. We had contests. People won all kinds of stuff, okay? So you might want to go back and check that out. Who knows? We may slip up again one of these days real soon and have another contest, okay? So you never know. But we want to congratulate our contest winners, Mr. Kyle Smith, who won this really neat looking wolf's head chain, pennant, or whatever you want to call it. And also to Girl and Her Gone, Maureen and Gus's mom, who won a werewolf. Yes, she actually won a werewolf. Okay. Yes, I do have werewolves around here. Okay. I have some in my neighborhood, by the way, but that's another story. We'll talk about that some other time. But anyway, congratulations to the winners. We're pushing ahead with episode 101 here. Maybe, one day soon I'll be talking about 1001. You never know. That may be a while down the line, though, folks. Okay. It may be a while yet. But I want to welcome you all here and thank you so much for your support. And it's gotten us this far, definitely. And some of my good friends out there that have supported me from the beginning, you know who you are. And I really appreciate that too. And I might even mention you my name very shortly. You never know. And but I've got some good friends. And speaking of good friends, we got Mr. Bigfoot Dwarf here tonight, and he's fixing to come on here and fill us in on some weird stuff going on out that way. And I love California. I've always wanted to go to California. I've never been to California, but I love the California Pacific coastline. That's what I like. I like the highway that goes through there. I've seen a lot of scenic tours on that online. Unfortunately, I'd like to do it in person one day. I love California. Although I make fun of California a lot. If I didn't pick on you, California, I wouldn't like you. Okay. All right. I want to say that at the beginning, but yeah, I like California. Beautiful state. Got some great people out there. And thank you there, Russell, for that $5 sticker. Thank you there so much. I appreciate that. It's people like you that keep us going here. Definitely, we do have some overhead costs, and I have a quota to meet every month, so that helps, and I appreciate that very much. So, thank you, sir. You are a great supporter, absolutely, and I honor you for that, absolutely. Thank you so much. But anyway, yeah, actually, I have a piece of California here in my museum somewhere, by the way, and I'm not supposed to have it. Okay, this is an illegal part of California, folks. I never told anybody this, but my uncle went to California one time, and he brought me back a piece of the petrified forest, and I have a piece of petrified wood from California. Okay, from out that way. And but you're not supposed to get that stuff. You're not supposed to take that away from the park. That's a big no-no. Of course, back then, and that's been a long time ago, it might not have been so. I don't know. And anyway, I know it is now. So if I ever get to California, I definitely will leave the Petrified Forest alone. Okay. But I might have to visit the La Brea tar pits, definitely. But anyway, oh yeah, here we got a news flash. It just come in. Here's a news flash. Katy Perry has stood in a puddle of water for 5 minutes and now declares herself a deep sea diver. Film 11 on that, folks. Okay. All right. There you go. And speaking of that, here is the main man himself. He's an international man of mystery, just like me. Okay. Here he is, Mr. Bigfoot Dwarf. Hello, sir.
Good evening, Doc, and good
How's it
evening
going
to
out that way?
it's going pretty
Good. All
crazy.
right.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's been a weird day today. A lot of strange stuff happening, a lot of changes of plans, but hey,
Oh,
we're pushing forward. And so interesting start to the weekend. And yeah, greetings to everyone in chat and everyone listening.
that sounds intriguing, definitely. And there's always, I think, something going on out there on the West Coast, definitely. That's one of my It's one of my favorite places. There's something new all the time, definitely. It's sort of like a trend. If it happens on the West Coast, it usually ends up on the East Coast sooner or later.
Or vice versa.
Sometimes it goes in reverse, though, but that's the
Yep.
way it works. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Um Yeah, I was listening to your intro there, pretty cool intro. I believe that was sounded like Star Fox, Lord Star Fox there. And
Oh
so
yeah,
we're working.
that's
Yep.
him. He's
Yeah, and
yeah, he
we got
did
the
that for me. He's a great guy. Me and him. Yeah,
we got the train going by
absolutely.
here, so you might hear some choo-choos in the background. Um and yeah, he's blowing
Look
that
forward to
horn
that.
for sure. And I could mute it here, but yeah, it was a cool intro. I was listening to it and it started off and it started saying something about the doors of perception, which caught my attention. And I find that interesting, a lot of that occult stuff. And to me, occult just meaning hidden. A lot of people think, or when they hear occult, they think that you're maybe doing stuff with dead animals and maybe rituals in the forest of dark nature and stuff like that. No, it's just the hidden stuff that's not out there like that. It's more underground information. And then yeah, there is that whole other dark side of the occult too. But yeah, the doors of perception. So it makes me think a lot of times in movies, you'll see these examples of these things. For example, uh there'll be a movie scene and you'll see a long hallway with a bunch of doors on the side. And then to me, when I see scenes like that, I am automatically think the doors of perception. And so maybe, yeah, maybe we do pick it up on a subliminal level, I would imagine. But yeah, no, I like to pay attention to stuff like that in like films and even when I'm in real life, I may be walking down a hotel hallway or something like that, and then I'm like, oh, the doors of perception come to mind. So, I'll think about things like that in a weird way. And anyway, the intro kind of made me think like of that. And we'll see where you're going to be steering this ship tonight. You did say you're going to be guiding
I
us
think it's
through these deep
that's
oceans
a
here
very
tonight.
very famous quote. It comes from a very famous quote by Huxley. There are things that are known, and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception. And that's the way we perceive things a lot of times. And sometimes these doors will open for us, and sometimes they won't. Uh, that just depends. I think a lot of times where you at. But I did a show the other night, and this lady was asking me, "Well, why you? Why have all these things happened to you?" And I've had people ask me that same question over and over a lot of times. Why have you experienced so much? I said, well, I think probably I'm nobody really special. But I think it's probably because I was looking for it. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, if you know what they say, seek and thou shalt find, right? So, um, yeah, I don't know. I feel the same way. I feel like, yeah, we're nothing special, but at the same time, we're all special. So I don't know. Once again, it brings me to that yin yang of this reality, the polarities of this realm, and yeah, no, that's something to think about. I think, yeah. So a lot of things I could go with that polarity. It's like I'll think of things one way and kind of like lean towards that side, but then I start thinking about it more and then I start leaning towards this other side, and so I got to find this balance. And there's Lord Star Fox sending a text now. Maybe he'll join us. Um,
Hey,
yeah, yeah,
there you
yeah. We got to
go.
set something up.
We've started off kind of weird tonight, haven't we?
Yeah, no, I've been getting all types
Yes.
of phone calls, random phone calls. Just even right before we went live here, I got a phone call from someone. I thought I was gonna have to uh cancel for a few minutes and hop on late, but luckily I was able to figure all that out. And earlier I did a little
Yeah.
live and was getting all types of random phone calls then too. So it's just been one of those days, a lot of
Mm.
change of
Well, I do have a
plan.
oh, she's a great guy, and yeah, oh yeah, he's a great guy. He's a very gifted guy too, and I enjoy hooking up with him every now and then. He keeps me on my toes too. He wants me to come up with something different all the time, so I have to get into research on that. But that's okay. That I'm used to it. I'm a master of rabbit holes, and I think I do a lot of rabbit holes, and I think you do too. And
Yeah, no,
speaking of rabbit holes, have you got
uh-huh.
anything new going on out that way?
Well, it's new. We could talk about some new little adventures that I've done lately, but um, I want to say, to me, one part of me is like, oh, it's been the same old, because I have talked about several things, but we'll get into those things and maybe get into some of the details. But yeah, no, like you said, Lord Star Fox, I gotta dig and find something for us to really talk about, because yeah, his topic is a little different than the stuff that I'm into. And my passion is Sasquatch, and of course he covers the Dogman and werewolves, which is yeah, really not my specialty. But yeah, no, I'm open to all of it, and we've done several chats, interviews, and they've been pretty good. So I think, it's cool. He keeps me on my toes as well. Um, yeah, what else was I was gonna say what there. So earlier we did the live. There were several things that I brought up earlier in the live that I don't know. It's just topics that uh are of interest, and so I've been doing these live streams. You know, talking on Bigfoot, of course. Some of our latest captures. We like sky watching and capturing weird anomalies in the sky, and sharing that footage, and just getting the old brain going, and questioning these things. So that's always fun. And recently, so there's the serial killer, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. He was captured near where we have our shop, our business, and very nearby. And so recently I stopped by, made a little pit stop there, because it's along my way to work, and just did a little live from there and just showed people the area. Actually, quite a few people have done videos from there, just touching base, and showing the area where it happened. There was a lot of confusion, I think, before the internet, of where exactly he was captured. People knew it happened in East LA, and yeah, but it's weird that it happened right near the shop. I'm like, wow. And so also nearby is the Hotel Cecil over in downtown, where Richard Ramirez also stayed and spent time, and which is a major paranormal hotspot. Um, I've never experienced anything strange there. I never really been inside either. I've only been outside of the building and stuff, but I could imagine because there is a vibe outside of that place, and so we recently also did a just another visit to the Hotel Cecil there, just checking things out, live streaming, and yeah, took a walk around the building to the back of the building, and always trying to see if I could get inside. It'd be cool to check it out from the inside, but at the moment, I guess it's low income housing. So there's tenants in there. And so, it's pretty much off limits to the public. There's also security cameras and all that going on.
Uh,
So it makes it, but people have done some investigations there with people living there. So, some of the bigger YouTube channels, there's one, Paranormal Files did a really good investigation there. They do awesome investigations, I think. And yeah, they did a pretty good one from the Cecil. We're able to get inside and interview some of the tenants and their investigations. They not only do interviews, but they use like gadgets, paranormal for the paranormal and stuff, and they do different techniques to try to get more information on what may be going on. So yeah, definitely want to check out if you're interested in the hotel. And yeah, they've been trying to sell it. Also, I've heard. I don't know if it's up for sale at the moment, but there's been several times where they've shut it down completely, and then they'll reopen it, use it for the low income housing. They've shut it down, and then they open it back up. So it's just like this merry-go-round of opening and closing and it being for sale. And yeah, just a strange place. There's so much history there. Once you get into it, it's pretty
do,
fascinating. And
do you get any weird vibes from that place? I mean, when you're there, do you
oh
feel
yeah,
kind of
definitely. And also
ice?
because I also believe it's one of these old world buildings that we
Mhm.
talk about. This subject of the old world that we've been getting into.
Tartaria, yeah.
Yeah, some call it Tartaria. Um, I believe it's one of those old world buildings. You could totally tell when you look at it, it just has that look. And then I looked into the history of it, and it's got this funny story, like a lot of these structures and buildings do. And so I do believe that building is possibly from a previous civilization uh, that we don't know about. And yeah, I forget the style that it is, the type of architecture it is, but yeah, I've been learning more about that type of stuff, these buildings, the type of architecture, different styles and
Well,
stuff.
since you mentioned that at the beginning of this program about the doors of perception, I
Mhm.
think certain architectural features
Yes,
may be sometimes what we might call portal type things, or maybe they bring that about. Maybe they're sort of openings for things like that.
definitely.
You and I have talked before about some of the strange buildings in Los Angeles that people have talked about. Bigger on the inside than on the outside, and some other strange stuff like that. And that's one place I've always wanted to go is the Hotel Cecil, definitely. And it's connected to a lot of things, the Black Dahlia and all that stuff, and
Yes,
with the Lamb Woman and all the other stuff that's happened there. Do you think that probably there are architectural features that may be left over, definitely from Tartaria, that could perhaps even be openings for something like portals or some kind of activity coming through? You know what I mean?
100%. I think so. In my mind, there's been a lot of stuff that I've been learning about that points to that. And some people will say Tartarian, and yeah, possibly a lot of it may be, or I'm not sure if it's all Tartarian. But I call it old world. And just even like your backdrop there, super cool backdrop. I see we're like in the library, and then there's what we call a fireplace in the background there, right in between us, and that's a feature that you'll see in some of these buildings is like these old fireplaces, and I believe a lot of them weren't used like we use them nowadays. If people use them, you have that luxury to use them. I hear that they weren't burning wood like we were, that they were possibly burning something else, some sort of other substance that yeah, it's along the lines of like free energy type stuff. And yeah, it's pretty fascinating information. I forget what it was. Maybe someone in the
Well,
chat will know. But yeah,
there's
these
always been
different uh-huh.
there's always been a very interesting connection uh, with that kind of stuff, North. You know what I mean? I was reading the other day, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but some of the big architectural buildings overseas, especially in the UK and Scotland and places like that, and even in France, parts of France, when they built cathedrals and all this other stuff, they would do sacrifices there. They would sacrifice animals and bury them in the cornerstones. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And you have to wonder about some of this other stuff. Could some of these, be dark portals? Could these be openings that have, because of these sacrifices that have taken place there, and some of the other rituals that may have been done on this property? It makes you wonder.
Oh yeah, no, no. Well, there's well-known castles that are known for the dark arts and dark activity, dark people, known to live in these castles. And yeah, these castles once again are these old world buildings and structures that we speak of. Yeah, definitely. There's stuff going on in some of these places.
Yeah. You know, I did a show not long ago with BMR, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and we
Mhm.
talked about liminal places. And this definitely sounds like a liminal place. That sort of in between thing where anything can happen in a place like that. It's like open to the universe in a way. It's kind of a weird description, but it's almost as if it's I like to call it spiritual intersections kind of thing. Anything can pass through there, anything can happen. You have a lot of weird activity. Look at a lot of things that have happened in Los Angeles, like the black eyed kids and all this other stuff that you hear about. And of course, out in the forest and all that, you got Bigfoot. You got, Bat Squatch and Mount Shasta, and you got some really weird stuff going on. And you have to wonder what's the common denominator for a lot of this stuff. And I think, you're probably right about that. There may be a common denominator, and it may be with like portal activity of some sort. I'd love to know what kind of ley lines run along the Cecil Hotel and places like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to look into that. And then also, people use like the dowsing rods and stuff. Maybe some dowsing rods around the walk around the Cecil and see what happens there with those things. Maybe that could point you to something or somewhere. But yeah, no, people talked about the Cecil itself being some sort of vortex to somewhere bad. And so once again, the portal vortex thing comes up there. Also, there's other buildings in the area. There's also a building that I noticed on this last walk by there, or walk through the area there. Across the street is another huge building, and it had these griffins. You also talk about
Mhm.
gargoyles and
Yeah.
stuff like that being on these buildings. Yeah, and the griffin is possibly representative of Tartarians because in some depictions
Yeah.
of Tartarian flags and stuff
Well,
like that, the
one
griffin.
of their major signals is the Griffin, definitely.
Yeah.
Chimera.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this building had griffins on the corners, right across the street from the Hotel Cecil. So I think there's something there, and so a lot of times it makes me wonder why they demolish. A lot of these buildings do get demolished or completely flipped into something like that they weren't before. Um, yeah, so usually when you find like a really good old world building, there's chances that there are other stuff in the area, other buildings, maybe other types of structures within that area of that building or whatever it may be, star fort or there's other things that are out there that you could look around and you'll find other things. It might not be just in your face. Sometimes it will be. and you can't tell until you look at it with these certain eyes. But yeah, usually you'll find other stuff in the area, and so there's also the theory, and we believe, and it's true in a lot of areas, that a lot of these buildings connect underground, and that a lot of these buildings are a lot bigger than what they are at face value. That meaning that they go underground, deeper underground, and yeah, that takes us to the whole talk of the underground tunnels and different things like that going on. Train systems being
Well,
underground.
you've
Uh,
got a long history there of Los Angeles about the supposed lost civilizations underneath Los Angeles, the tunnel systems that run through there, and some of this other stuff, connected with that too. And
yes.
when you talk about Tartaria and all that stuff, and I like to call that stuff sort of the pre-known history stuff. In other words, a lot of this stuff could have taken place long before the history that we know of. These are ancient civilizations that rose and fell, maybe, and they had technology that we can only dream about. Because, like, a lot of people said, how did they build some of these things? How did
Mhm.
they make these things? They definitely had to have some type of a different technology than what we have today. Absolutely. And it's not that far fetched to think if they had that kind of technology, some of it might remain behind doing some stuff. For all we know, I'd like to know what's under the Hotel Cecil, I mean, deep under there, and what else is going on with that.
Oh yeah.
Ever you ever thought about that much?
Yeah, definitely. And not only with that particular building, but all the others that we are finding and learning about. Um, so yeah, just fascinating stuff, and I think it connects a lot with even you wouldn't think, but we're into the whole UFO UAP topic, ETs, extraterrestrials. So we wouldn't think that in the old world, or maybe in the past, that we had the technology of or they had the technology of flying crafts and stuff like that. And then so the topic of the airship comes up, and yeah, which is I find fascinating. I even like, the current day the blimps and everything. To me it's always a trip to see it flying around here. um but yeah, so what kind of tech did they have way back then? If they did have this advanced tech, free energy type stuff, maybe they had UFOs already in those times,
Who you
Um, yeah, even in the Vedic, what is it, the Vedic text, they talk about the Vimanas, and which is very interesting. And so yeah, I think maybe some of the things we may be seeing could be tied to maybe some of these civilizations even, who knows? But
have
yeah,
you ever
there's also
done you ever done any research on the airships that people saw years ago back in like the 1890s and all that? You ever done a lot of research on that? A
yeah.
lot of those are seen
Mhm.
around Los Angeles too, in some parts of the West, Arizona and Nevada and different places like that. That's fascinating stuff. Where did that come from? That's
Yeah.
another thing you look at. And if here's my theory on that, okay? If parts of Tartaria still exist, or this earlier civilization unknown to man that history has forgotten about, it one major place it could still remain on this earth would definitely be underground. In that respect, we've heard there's so many markers, dwarf. There's so many markers and things in folklore that are pointing towards this. And like we've said so many times before, and I think you'll agree with this, we have not been told a lot of history that they know. A lot of these people know what the real history is, but they're not telling us, or they're not letting it out. That's what real disclosure, and I don't think you'll ever see real full disclosure on a lot of this stuff. Not for a long, long time, definitely. But
Right.
I think, don't you think that's what's going on? Don't you think a lot of this is hidden information from us?
Yeah, and I question that too, because I feel like it's almost like sad, like for us to go through life, not knowing some of the stuff that may be true or is true, right? And just to think like the school
Talk about
system, like, I had a good time in school, don't get me wrong. But yeah, just what we're taught in school and just learning that, yeah, there's so much more that we could have learned and different things that we could learn or teach the youth for us to become better people, and really push humanity forward. And it just seems the complete opposite. So I see that there is, and with you, we could bring this up, of course. We talk about the Lord and of course the devil, and that the devil inverts everything, and so yeah, I think it's there's a lot of things that have been inverted in our reality, and it's the complete opposite of what it is. And again,
reverse.
polar
Yeah.
almost like the polarities come up again, and so, but basically, it's up to us, to figure it out, as much as possible. Not that we're going to learn everything, I don't think that's it, but we're on a mission, and we got to figure out what our mission is and do the best to figure it out, figure out whatever information it is. And to me, I'm sure you'll maybe agree, I think for me it's
I think
finding.
the powers that be. I think the
Yeah,
powers that be, Dorf. I think the powers that be know this. I know a lot about this, and they're keeping it from us. Definitely, they
of
don't
course.
want us to know it because they're hooked. They're connected to it. Okay, in many ways, they probably know they're utilizing a lot of this stuff. They know. I mean, if they were to really confess, they would know that there once was an Atlantis, definitely something like that. There were other power sources beyond what we know now. And just like for the very fact, you've heard me say this before, and I stand behind this statement, what we have technological wise, the government has 100 or so years advancement on that.
Mhm. Yeah,
We're only just given the crumbs, folks.
yeah,
Definitely.
some say 50 years, and then at times I'm like, oh wow, yeah, they must have, all this and that. But then there's a lot of things that happen also that I see happening in reality that makes me question that too. Like, man, well, I thought they have this type of technology. Why don't they use this technology for whatever the situation may be?
What was
And
about 50 years ago? They had spy satellites that could read the headlines of a newspaper in Moscow. Can you imagine what they've got now?
now, exactly, and
What they really have got to use now? It
that's
would be
me.
amazing. Yeah.
That's you hit it right on the head. That's the exact example I was thinking of in my head is that these cameras that could zoom in and read stuff like that from way back when. And so you could only imagine what they have now. And so when there's certain situations like certain crime going on or maybe certain.
Let me throw this one at you right quick. I want you to think about this a minute, okay? I love talking to you. Okay, listen to this. Well, they supposedly have cameras that are so intense with certain kinds of light that they utilize, whatever, that they can shoot this on a human being and tell whether it's a robot or it's a living person. They can actually like X-ray cameras. You know what I'm saying? Think about that.
Yeah, no, it's mind-blowing.
Mhm.
And so what else do they have? And what are they doing with it? You know? And we see things going on around here. We look up in the skies, we see things are being sprayed out there. What's that all about? What are they covering there? They're covering the skies for a reason, it seems like. And at the same time,
But
those substances are doing other things as well.
there is
So
a theory. There's a theory that they're trying to change the very atmosphere of this planet for some reason. They're trying to completely manipulate the reality of what we live, this planet that we're living on. Why is that? Are they connected with some other outside force that needs to do that? Or is it a part of the conquest plan that they've got? What's
mhm.
going on with that?
Yep,
Because
good
why
question.
would you change the atmosphere that you need to live in? That don't make sense. That'd be like, playing Russian roulette with all loaded chambers. It don't make sense at all.
Yeah. And
you would do something like that. Who is behind that? Who's doing that kind of stuff?
yeah, and and I haven't been really checking out the chat. I'm wondering what chat's saying. But yeah, there's, speaking of changing the atmosphere, with there's the theory, or some people will cold-heartedly believe that with the reptilians, supposedly the reptilians
Mm-hmm.
uh have had us mine gold for them, right? Because they need the gold supposedly for their atmosphere, I've heard, maybe for their vehicles as well, but I've heard for their atmosphere, that their atmosphere was I guess very polluted, and they needed the gold for some reason. And so I'm sure people have heard of that one. So that comes to mind. And some people, I've heard even some people as far as saying that they've had the Sasquatches do that mining work for them. But yeah, I don't know about all that. Um, but yeah, no, it's
Mm-hmm. I've heard
interesting
that
that,
theory, yeah.
yeah, the talks of their atmosphere, wherever it may be, the Draco star system, or who knows.
And
Uh
here's another theory I'll throw at you, since you and I both like Sasquatch, definitely. Uh, what if it's not a real living being? What if it's some type of a robot type thing? Kind of like the thing that was on, the $6 million man. Remember that one? What
yeah.
if it is something like that? What if it's not a living thing? Some of them, and I'm not saying all of them, I'll just say some of them are put out there by aliens or whoever, whatever their powers may be, and they're robotic type things. Yeah, look at
Very,
that too. Yeah.
very possible. There's also some theorize that, yeah, there's some sort of and they say about the grays also, but that they were brought down here to kind of be uh like to check out our atmosphere, basically our natural forests and places like that, and that they're like some sort of ETs. Yeah, it goes all over the place with the Sasquatch also. It's pretty
Well, some people,
far out.
some people believe that the Greys are sort of the scientific team for the reptilians, kind of thing. That's the
Hmm.
interesting thing about it too. But if they are changing the atmosphere and they're doing it for their own purposes, it makes sense, because look, mankind is now an impediment for these guys. I mean, we've gotten bigger, stronger, smarter, hopefully a little smarter anyway. And we have technical weapons and all that stuff, so we would be a hindrance to them taking over. So you would have to sort of wipe out the nest to get the prize. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Yeah, and then, yeah, going back to changing, I think I've also heard people talking about, yeah, it could be the reptilians or the reptoids changing our atmosphere here to make it more suitable for them, because they like it uh nasty like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, who knows?
or
It makes me
tropical
wonder for
maybe.
sure. Yeah, it makes me wonder. But yeah, it's a wild world for sure. And yeah, I've been focusing on quite a few things, of course, my surroundings and things going on in the LA area since I'm out here. And yeah, there's always, speed chases and all types of crime going on. It's really wild, and it's always kind of been like that. But I feel like, yeah, more than ever, especially now with social media and being able to share information and video, audio stuff is just really moving fast these days. And so yeah, and with the crime, I think that I question when people are in certain mind states and are doing certain things, or are under the influence of certain substances, could be under the influence of some other entities or beings. And we don't, yeah, a lot of us do see it in that way, but I don't think we grasp the severity of it. And so yeah, when I see these things happening and going on, I'm seeing, like, these entities and beings in action, taking over the human. I feel like there's a lot of things that people do that just doesn't seem naturally human. It's not
And then
in
of
our
course,
instincts to do these things. And so yeah, I
Of
believe
course, you'd
these.
have to tie into that, Dwarf. You'd have to tie in the sort of black magic connection to it, the satanic connection that may be going on with a lot of this stuff as well.
Of, of course.
We do know the Nazis were deep into this stuff. Other regimes have been deep into it. And,
Hmm.
according to the real society, they were hooking up with a so called alien consciousness out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And they supposedly got
Iowa.
a lot of information and technology from these guys. And it could be that they're playing us. They're playing us, I think, like a fiddle. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And I don't play that instrument, but yeah, no, definitely. So it's again, like I was gonna mention earlier, it's up to us to figure it out. We gotta, yeah, each one teach one, but it's up to the self. Also, there's the whole battle going, the spiritual warfare going on outside, outside of me, and then there's also the battle going on inside. So it's almost like I was gonna say two battles. The perspective is two battles, but I think also, yeah, when you're battling inside and you're doing your best to do right and do things that in a good way. Uh, those things will reflect outside as well. So yeah, so it's interesting how the inside reflects the outside. And what is it? As above, so below; as within, so without. So that old Masonic saying comes to mind. Uh, yeah, it's just interesting space, this reality, and yeah, no, there's things for us that we need to do. I feel like there's certain things I need to do, like connecting.
I agree. Absolutely, you hit a nail on the head there with that. I think a lot of this is spiritual, dark spirituality. Definitely, it's where it's coming
Up
from.
to us to figure it out, to seek. For me, it's
Yeah.
like seeking the Lord, and then everything else comes after that. Um, but yeah, no, I think there's the spiritual warfare is happening, and we got to sharpen our swords and put our shields on, and yeah, get to
I'm gonna
work.
tell you this. I'm gonna be honest with you, my friend. Okay, I'm getting
Mhm.
attacked on a daily basis, and this has never happened before. Within the last few years, this has really ramped up. Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, no, and that's what I'm talking about. This week it's been crazy. It's been crazy. All types of stuff happening right now. Even at this moment, I'm talking about. Right now, it's just like uh it's been crazy. So but we move forward. We stay strong, and yeah, thank goodness for family and friends, and yeah, people like yourself, Dr. Carol. And you know what? I don't want to forget this. I want to like really appreciate everything you do, and just learning about who you are, and knowing that you're an OG. You've been around for quite a bit, and for us to have you here, connecting with us, your knowledge and everything, I think it's a blessing. And so I want to thank you
Well,
and appreciate you, and yeah, I appreciate
thank you.
you
I
for having
appreciate
me
you.
on again. Yeah, it's I'm super honored, and yeah, I pray that we all keep kicking here and kicking forward, because you never know. I said it the other day. We're not exempt to things that happen in life, and anything could happen at any time. So yeah, we got to be aware and just stay sharp.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's like having people like you in our corner that's going to help us too. Definitely. And we need to be aware of a lot of what's going on around us. We need to wake up and really smell the bacon cooking because it might be our bacon cooking here. You know what I mean? And definitely, we need to be aware. But like I say, these spiritual forces are actively starting to come out against us, and we need to recognize that, and we need to understand why they're doing that, because we're getting way, way too close, folks, to the truth of these things. Okay, they don't like that. They're going to fight against that. That's why I call it hunting the shadows. You got to pull these things out of the shadows so that people can see what the truth is. Uh, but meanwhile, we need to walk in the light. That's the main thing, you know. We need to walk in the light and not be in the darkness. Nobody wants to be in the dark, especially when they're keeping secrets from you and keeping the truth and knowledge from you. Nobody likes that, you know. I don't like it. It really sticks in my craw, my friend. Okay, there's a burr under my saddle. I never liked that. Um, I think that's sort of an insult when you do that to people. You sort of insulting their intelligence. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and again, I think about what it would be like if everyone like, yeah, I mean, it's impossible. Well, who knows? Nothing's impossible for the Almighty One. But yeah, if the planet was on board and everyone trying to figure things out, helping each other, I mean, it would be an amazing place, you know, and who knows where we'd be at that point. But it's fun to think about, and I try to carry that energy with me, you know, like it is possible, you greet people, you treat
Well,
people good, and you keep that vibe going, and yeah, for some people it may rub off, and for
when
others
we uh, when we
uh,
hook up and we connect together, I think that's when they're really scared of us. You know what I'm saying? Because they want to divide us. They want to divide us racially, economically, religiously, however they want to do it. They try to I call it pigeonholing people. You put stuff in, like you put mail on a slide, they pigeonhole us. They say, "Oh, you go here, you go there," because they don't want us to be united. They
yeah,
don't want us
divide and
cooperating
conquer.
and loving each other and helping each other. They don't want that. They don't want that at all because that's absolutely against their plans. You know.
Yeah, no, divide and conquer right here, and comes to mind. But yeah, I feel at the same time, there is, we talk about, oh yeah, a lot of this stuff, but there is a whole lot of beautiful things. Like there's once again California. Yeah, we have our issues out here. But there's a lot of beautiful places out here as well. You were mentioning some. So there, I try to see that, it's perspective. I mentioned that a lot. And yeah, that really helps to shape things also, your point of view of things, how you're feeling, how you're looking at things. And not projecting maybe certain things. Yeah, it's it comes a lot of it comes down to the mind, and once again that inner battle, or those inner thoughts, those inner questions, and how you process those things. It's an interesting thing, the mind and consciousness and everything, and I'm fascinated by it. And also another thing, I see it a lot in yourself. You're very much a man of the Lord, which I feel I am myself as well. And I do things my own way. I practice things my own way. I'm not religious. I'm very, very much. I feel very spiritual. Uh, but I also feel an attraction to this certain information that we're into, and a lot of it is dark information. It's I feel very interested in it, and I feel like that's where you also got to be careful, that you don't cross that line, and let this information take over
Well,
certain things.
that's the one big thing we need to watch out for. Bigfoot dwarfs definitely is that darkness that's already inside of us. The darkness of this world wants to hook up with that and use it against us. They want to use our sinful nature, and we need to be on guard against that, definitely. But you're very right. And the fact is, it's not religious. Okay, I say this a lot. I'm not a religious person. I know that sounds bad to say that, but I'm not. I'm a spiritual person. I'll go back to what Jesus said in the Bible. God is a spirit, therefore he must be what? Worshipped in the spirit. That's how you connect up with God. It's a spiritual thing, okay? It's not a religious thing. Religious is man-made stuff, okay? We've talked about that before, and we don't need to live or lose sight of that, okay? Because that's very important. And that's what you're saying there, definitely. And I agree with you 100% on it. You have to look at the spiritual side of these things. And when I first got involved in this many, many years ago, I've been doing it now for well over half a century. I saw to my own self my experiences and things I had. I said, there is another side to this universe. There's something else besides what I can see, hear, touch, and smell and feel. There's something else. What is that? And I want to know more about it. And that's what began my quest into that. And I think you feel the same way. I think that's what's working on you now. Definitely.
Yeah. And yeah, going back to like getting into these dark topics, some of it at face value is very, interesting and fascinating, but at the root of it, it leads back to some of this dark stuff that we speak of. Um, but also at the same time, that with that same curiousness and energy, I seek the Lord. I try to learn as much as possible. So like, yeah, when you have your streams, I love when you talk and listening to you, and I vibe with you. I do feel a lot of this stuff going on is demonic, and people may scoff at that, but yeah, it goes back to that, and on many levels too. So yeah, I love hearing you talk, and yeah, keep it up for sure. Because not a lot of people, a lot of us get into these cryptid topics, the paranormal and everything, but not a lot of us speak on the Lord. And I just like that you do. And I don't talk about it much. I feel for me it's a real personal thing, but when it's time, I do represent, and I love talking about it. I love, I could talk of even Bible stuff, different uh, different religions and stuff as well. I could talk religions, and I do my little studying of that as well, and know some things, and a lot of those things I question as well. But yeah, no, I could get into that those arenas, and yeah, you're definitely the man to do it with. So um yeah, another thing is going out into the field. So, we call it bigfooting. Maybe it's just camping with the boys. uh, but
No, that's
yeah,
good.
seeking these encounters, possibly experiences with these things, and off the bat, I'll tell you, I don't know what Bigfoots are. I don't know if they're are a friendly forest giant, or I don't know if they're a demonic or Nephilim. I have no idea. But a lot of the information going around is very fascinating, and I'm doing my own quest into finding out for myself what these things may be. And yeah, it's been a fun journey thus far. And I know that there's always the possibility of things happening, out in the forest in these areas. So I'm very aware of that, and but something inside of me just pushes me. I just I gotta get out there. I gotta find these answers, and yeah, I'm really, I think it's part of it. It's just part of it, of once again seeking answers.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good to have
seeking
that.
answers that I have about, life and God and all that. So all this is just part of it, and yeah, it's just I don't know. You got to be careful with the topic, because again, it could go both ways. There's a lot of dark sides to the Sasquatch thing and these other cryptids as well. So, and nowadays, Dogman, werewolves being a hot topic. I feel people got to be careful, especially with that one. For some reason, the Dogman and werewolf, I get a really uh negative, negative vibe from it. Like, I don't see anything good coming from that, although people have stories of supposed, good ones and stuff like that. I have no idea, but I don't see that, or I don't feel that coming from these creatures. And Bigfoot, for some reason, seems a little different. A lot of people nowadays are talking that if they feel like they've had experiences, been around them and stuff like that, and that, if it wanted to do harm, that they would have done harm. And I feel that, I feel like, yeah, there's been certain points where I've experienced things, maybe they were around, but I'm still here. But at the same time, I do feel that these beings could have something to do with people going missing as well. And there's stories out there of them possibly even mating with some of us and stuff like that. There's far out things that you hear with the whole subject. So yeah,
Well,
it just
I think we need to look at the possibility for these things being utilized by the darker aspects of this world. They may be utilized. They may be, the darkness, the bad guys. They like to use things in people. Okay, and that includes creatures as well. They use animals. They use dogs. They use all kinds of animals that way. Definitely. So I don't see them ever stopping at using Bigfoot or Dogman for some of their purposes that they may want. And we never know when we run into that. I've seen Sasquatch face to face. Okay, I was close enough to reach out and grab his shin hairs. Okay, and and the feeling I got from that was very disturbing in some ways. I mean, I didn't feel an inanimate evil like off of him, but I didn't feel good either. It was not a pleasant experience. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying in that respect. I got sort of and it's very hard to describe it, and you may know what I'm trying to convey here. I got sort of an ambiguous feeling of that. Like he could be either bad or good, and it didn't feel like it was overly good. You know what I'm saying? If I had to weigh it on a balance, it didn't, it kind of weighed toward the darker a little side of it. But that's me, okay? But anyway, that's what I came away feeling that, hey, here's my number one feeling on it, okay? And you may know what I'm trying to say. It was like, hey, you don't belong here. There's something about you. You're not, you don't really belong here, Bigfoot. I wasn't going to argue with him about it, but I'm just saying definitely, I got that feeling, and I think Dogman would be the same way. And I've heard the things I've heard about Dogman gives me a definite dark feeling to him in some ways. Um, what are your spin on that? What do you think?
Yeah, and going back to Bigfoot, probably thought the same about you, that you don't belong here. But anyway, I just thought I put that out there. Yeah, Dogman. I just don't feel like, even werewolf, like the whole transformation of it. The information I've heard just doesn't sound positive, like something you want to be around. Um, and obviously the programming that we've had, a lot of us, if we've watched TV, and I would imagine even way more now with the internet. But the programming of whatever werewolves on TV, it's always been pretty much a negative depiction of them. So it's something, it's a monster to us, and usually monsters are scary, and monsters will eat you or hurt you, right? um yeah, it's just I just don't, I have no interest in having a face to face with anyone of the dogmen or werewolves, uh
Might
but I
not come out good. It might
yeah,
not end
I
good.
don't think so.
Definitely. But let me say this before you go on. Let me say this about werewolf. Okay, we know without a doubt it is based in dark demonic power. That's where it's coming from. But there are certain other werewolves. You've heard me talk about this before. The many different types of werewolves, and there are other certain werewolves that don't want to be werewolves. They are cursed by this thing. Okay, those are the ones I kind of feel sorry for. They didn't ask for that, you know. And they are the ones that have not gone fully 100% evil. See what I'm saying? Whereas in the real werewolf, the one that puts the belt on or whatever and does the things to become that, is inherently 100% evil. Okay. That's where he's coming from. So that's the one you don't want to meet. Okay, that's the one you definitely don't want to meet, because he's not going to cut you a break. You're not going to walk away from that. If you do, you are incredibly lucky. God's looking out for you, definitely. If you walk away from that, because he is an apex killer. psycho kind of killer here. Okay, he's gonna do it. But now the werewolf that has a little bit of humanity still left in it might cut you a break. You might, and same thing with Dogman. I have not heard very many stories where Dogman has actually turned on someone and attacked them viciously. Most of the time, it's like, you don't bother me and I don't bother you kind of thing. That's one feeling I get from it. But there are other stories that speak otherwise. What do you think about that? Do you think
Well,
that would be a concern for you?
yeah, going back to you mentioning the Bigfoot and how it, you know, the humanity, and that's why I think that, I wonder if the Sasquatches, maybe some of them, yeah, I do believe there's different attitudes, but they seem to really, I think we connect, or at least I feel I connect with Sasquatch a lot. Like I'm attracted to the whole subject because of the closeness they are to us, as far as them being bipedal, having, fingers, toes, and all that. uh just so many things are very similar, so I feel like there's a connection there, some sort of, it could be some sort of missing link, or who knows, some sort of hominid, so there is some sort of connection to us, I feel, on a humanity level. um but I could be totally wrong, I'm not sure. Also, and that's why I feel like I'm attracted more to that than the werewolf, where they're, I feel like, yeah, a full blown werewolf, like you say, is, pure evil. Who knows with the Sasquatch? I wonder, and I'm willing to find out. What is it? The FAFO?
I tell you what, got off of that meeting I had with him. Okay, I kind of come away with a sadness, sort of. It kind of made me feel kind of sad. And here's the funny thing, Dor. He had a look of surprise on his face, and I had one too. I'm sure my surprise was a lot bigger than his, but it was almost like a human emotion to a certain extent. I mean, that's what I come away with it, and I come away with sort of a sadness feeling. I don't know why. I never have really been able. It's as if I was looking at somebody that was lost or something that wasn't supposed to be there, or somehow it just had a very sad feeling to it. Have you ever picked up on that?
Not really. I think for the most part, anytime I'm in their areas, or areas they're known to be in, uh I just feel like, oh man, I mean, for the most part, you don't see them, right? You don't see anything. You might hear some things, uh, but knowing that they could be around and maybe around is I don't know. It's just it's pretty exciting, and I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. Bring me back, Captain.
Well, we were talking about Sasquatch, but let me say this about Lord Starfox. Okay, I did a show with him last night, and here's something I'm gonna throw in the conversation here. Okay, there are a lot of reports of Bigfoot sexually assaulting women. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I've heard of even in our area, Northern California, of possibly some mating with some native women and stuff like that, which is pretty mind blowing, if true. And I've heard other stories, and it just seems that the lady, where the story comes from, it just seems, like it could be true. I don't know why the lady would mention that. She had written a book about it way back in the early 1900s. I believe her name is Lucy Thompson, from I want to say the Yurok tribe, and there's some stuff in that book of something along those lines. So, and I've heard it from other also tribes, I believe. I can't think exactly off the bat, but it is a thing. And yeah, and going even back to the Bible, we were talking about the Bible earlier. There's the talks of the fallen angels, right? and
Yep.
that's almost like
The Nephilim. Yeah.
yeah, what's going on there? The whole Nephilim topic comes up, uh, which is pretty fascinating. So,
Here's
yeah,
something else. Let me tell you this right quick. Let me tell you this right quick. I just want to get your spin on it. Okay. Uh, there was a report. I forget exactly when. I can't put a time on it, but it was. I think I want to say it was back in the '60s or '70s. Okay. Supposedly, when this small family was abducted that had been camping, I think it was like a mother, father, couple of kids, or whatever. Anyway, supposedly they were abducted by a group of Bigfoot and taken to a cave or something. And the law enforcement actually tracked them down and found them. And the law enforcement never saw the Bigfoot. Okay, they never saw that part. I was supposed to say. Well, here's the clincher for the story. Okay, that's why I wanted to bring it up for you. The girl supposedly 9 months later had a baby from an inner thing going on with the Bigfoot. Okay,
wow.
and supposedly the government knew about it, and she and the baby supposedly disappeared. Uh, whether the government wanted all of that. What do you think about that? That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, no, and way back, I can remember being young, growing up in Hollywood, and being in line at the supermarket and seeing the what was it? I forget the name of the tabloid, but it have
The
it
National
almost
Enquirer.
reminds me of. Yeah, we had the Bat Boy and Lobster Boy, and then of
It's
course the
true. I
lady.
saw it in the Enquirer. It's true.
Yeah, and then the lady impregnated by Bigfoot, right? And it was like this thing that we would like. I don't
Yeah.
know. It was funny at the time, I would see those things, and I was young, but it made me wonder, And of course, at the time, I was like, okay, these tabloids, or whatever. Um, but now getting
Or was it based on something that really happened and
that
was just
too, yeah,
exported by, the National Enquirer? Yeah,
yeah, and they
inquiring
put it
minds want to know.
Yeah, and they put it out there for us to laugh at and to be like, "Yeah, of course that didn't happen or that can't happen," And getting into the subject, you hear about this stuff and it's, I guess at this point, yeah,
Well, let me
anything's
tell you this
oh,
right quick while I'm thinking about it. Hold on, hold that thought. Hold that thought a moment. I remember seeing an alien baby picture on the front of the National Enquirer. And this is when I worked at the hospital. We were all laughing about it because it was very obviously a X-ray of a baby. Okay, that's all it really was. But that's the Enquirer for you folks. Okay, but anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, and I think, that could be just, another tactic of theirs, for us to just, dismiss all these topics, these subjects that we get into, um yeah, kinda to throw us off. I think, it's a little ways of doing it. Um,
You remember that movie Night Flyer? You remember that?
no, no, no,
Vampire that
no.
would fly around from airport to airport in his own plane. You ever see that?
No, I'll
You
jot
need
it
to watch
down
that
though.
movie. That's a great movie.
Okay.
But here's the funny part about it. It was a National Enquirer reporter found out that this was happening. And he got on the trail of it, He didn't believe it till he found out. And he kept going around town like, this is real. This is true. And nobody believed him. That was kind of a
Wow.
bad thing too. But anyway,
Okay.
that's what I think about when I remember the Enquirer. Okay.
Alright. So I gotta check out Night Flyer. Yeah,
Yeah, check it
interesting.
out, the Night Flyer.
Mhm.
I
And
think you can find it on YouTube. It's on YouTube, I think. You need to watch it. That's
okay.
a great horror movie, by the way.
Yeah, and so, going back to that, and I can remember being in line, uh, checking out it was probably at a Save-On, and then you'd have the Thrifty's ice cream and yeah, the National Enquirer there. Yeah, it really it puts me back to that time. I would see those things. And so anyway, so you would think that those types of things would push, no, it attracted me more. I think it's yeah, one of those things that I could remember from those times. But yeah, of course, I always
Oh,
mention
oh,
Unsolved
you
Mysteries, Robert Stack, uh, and that
yeah,
intro. I
yeah,
love
Unsolved
love the
Mysteries. Yeah, that's
music.
a great a great. I always loved that. Yeah, and Robert Stack could make reading a telephone book sound interesting. By the way, uh, he was had a great voice. That man
Love it.
was incredibly smart. He knew like about 15 different languages. He was he was a genius. He was a very smart man.
Wow.
But do you remember that at the end of the counters years ago? I don't know if you remember this, but next to the Enquirer, they would have these little small, I call them pocket books, like little small books, and they would have paranormal stuff on them, different
Hmm.
stories. And I used to love to, I have a collection of those. I still own them. Okay. I
Right
have a
on.
collection of those. I would buy them. They were like, what, 95 cents or something like that. And
Okay.
they were little small books. You could read them in like 30 minutes. That was about it. But they were great. And they came up with some interest. I always like, I was always interested in paranormal stuff. So I would always buy those things. But I was looking at some of those the other day. They have them for sale on eBay. You don't want to know how much they want for those things.
20
They're very
bucks.
expensive now.
Wow. Well, yeah, no, that's super cool. I don't exactly remember those. I remember some certain small little books, but not the paranormal ones. But yeah, no, just growing up out here, there was all types of stuff pertaining to the paranormal. We had shows, all types of course, stuff on TV. And so yeah, ever since then I was very attracted to the paranormal, the UFO topic, Bigfoot and everything. I remember I've talked about when I first seen the Patterson film. I remember exactly where I was, and my mom telling me that that's a Sasquatch. It's the first time I ever heard the term Sasquatch, and so I'll never forget that. And yeah, there was a lot of good programming. Of course, we were talking about programming earlier. A lot of good programs at the time. There was different shows like Sightings was one. I used to like a lot of
Oh yeah,
the
sightings. I love that
yeah, the
one.
shows where they would show the videos and stuff, like, because I always wanted to see, like, when they talked about, like, a ghost and stuff like that. I was like, I wanna see the video. I
Always.
wanna see pictures. And so, yeah, those types of
You
shows I
remember?
was always attracted to.
You remember how sightings always signed off? I love to hear him say that. He said, "It's a strange universe out there, and we've got it
Okay,
covered."
right on. Yeah, and
That
even,
was neat.
some of the newer what was, like, one of the newer shows, it was the 3 guys, it was a UFO show, and they would, investigate, sightings and all that stuff. It'll come to me, but yeah, even some of the newer shows I find interesting and check them out. And even the latest Skinwalker Ranch stuff and all that. I've been checking a lot of that out, and yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, it's interesting how yeah, things have changed as far as like gadgets, what people are using out there. We have a lot more optics out, night vision, thermals. And yeah, I've been slowly trying to get some of these gadgets and put them to use as well. And I
Oh
do
yeah.
think
Well, that night, that incident I was telling you about when I saw Bigfoot close up, I had seen him 2 or 3 times in the distance, and wanted to see him closer up. It's sort of like, it becomes an addiction.
do
When you
you.
first see it, I
Uh-oh.
gotta see more of
Little
that.
buffer in there.
I was saying, yeah. Anyway, I was using a night scope. Those are really neat and pretty affordable. You can get the monocular type scope, and they work very well. And a lot
Nice.
of people, of course, you know how very dark it can be when you're way out in the forest with no lights around and only starlight, and that's it. So you really do need an infrared scope of some sort.
Oh
That's
yeah.
a kind of a must.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's some real affordable stuff these days as well. Back several years back when I first started purchasing things, it was some of the stuff was pretty expensive. But nowadays, there's a lot more options, and some of the stuff is pretty affordable. So yeah, it's just a matter of looking into what you're interested in. But yeah, I do recommend people getting, audio recorders if you're getting into this stuff, bigfooting, audio recorders, a decent camera. And yeah, if you could get some night ops, if you're going to be doing nighttime stuff, it's I would recommend it. It does help out. And yeah, I love, the game cams and stuff. Some guys don't like that. I'm into it. I'm into I'll try pretty much anything. I'm into trying different methods of doing things. There's certain things I'm not really into, but hey, people do different things, and I'm all right with that. But yeah, I have a certain way that I do things, and I feel like those methods have worked for me. I've gotten some interesting responses to things, and yeah, my thing is just trying to capture any of that information and bring it back, and of course, have it for my files, but of course, share it out too. Share it out with people that find it interesting. A lot of times, some of the stuff that we're experiencing and capturing are similar, if not the same, to what others are capturing doing the same types of things. So yeah, I love when we could connect and share information like that, share data. Um, yeah, because I don't know, it's interesting to see the difference between the offline arena and then the online arena. And online, it's just, yeah, it's a whole other world. It seems, there's just people doing different things, for different reasons, and offline, of course, as well. But I just feel, yeah, there's people that are out in the field, and they're bringing some of this data back, and then there's others that I don't know. I really don't know what they're doing, but yeah, I like to see guys out or girls out in the field, and showing what they're doing, and just sharing stuff, because I think that's how we could get forward with some of these questions and some of these issues that are prominent in the
Well,
field.
the more information, we accumulate and share with each other, the better. And everybody's got their different techniques. And me, I never was one to go. I call it. There's two types of Bigfoot hunting here. Okay, there's what I call the spotting and the real hunting. Now, you try to go out in the woods and spot. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Look for prints, for any kind of structures or whatever the situation. You go out and look for that, but that's not hunting Bigfoot, because walking out there making all that noise and he's going to hear you from 3 miles away. Okay, and he is an expert hider. Believe me, folks, this guy can hide. Okay, and he knows you're there. He knows what your intentions are. He knows that definitely if you're carrying a gun or a knife on you. Absolutely, he knows what all this is. He's not stupid. He's real smart. You got to. That's one thing about Bigfoot we always got to keep in mind. He is very intelligent. Okay, to be able to survive, you have to be. Okay, no dum dum ever lives that long. Okay, and not out in the woods anyway. So we got to remember that. So the best thing to do, I like for him to come to me. In other words, there comes a point where you got to stake him out. You get a little bit off the trail, hunker down, become part of the environment as much as possible. Don't be moving around. For God's sakes, you don't smoke cigars and cigarettes while you're out there. You don't do all that kind of stuff. Don't do any stupid things like that. Just become part of the environment. You got a better chance of seeing him that way, of encountering him that way, than you do by walking through the woods looking for him and hollering and beating on trees and doing all this kind of dumb stuff. Don't do that. That's a waste of time. You got to. I'm saying you can look for the signs. I got nothing against that. Fine. That's it. But that's not hunting. Real hunting. It's very much like deer hunting. You know, you'll never find that deer. You got to wait for. You got to ambush that son of a gun. Okay, that's the way it works. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the way it worked for me. You know.
Yeah, no, and that's great. I'm all about it. So whenever we go out bigfooting, we'll do your technique. And usually that's how it is when I go out with other people, I let them do their thing, and I'm open to it. See what happens. But when I'm out doing solo stuff, I do things my way. And yeah, it's all good. And if you are gonna smoke a cigar or cigarette or a joint or whatever you got going on, you got to make sure you bring some for Bigfoot. And another thing is, I like that. I like that. When we mention Bigfoot, we say he, and but we know that there are families. There's big ones, little ones, dark ones, light ones. I think they come in many different shapes and colors. So, but yeah, when we say he, we mean the Bigfoots in general. And just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, bring an extra cigar. Always bring an extra one for Bigfoot. Leave an extra one for Bigfoot. So if you're out fishing, you catch multiple fish, you leave one for Bigfoot. Your deer,
Hey,
I don't
one
know,
thing I
deer
like to
hunting,
do
you
every
leave the
now and then,
guts. You got to leave something behind for them.
that reminds me of what you just said. You can't leave sort of an offering, like uh, to them or for them in some ways. That's okay too. I like when I go out. I'm sort of like the way the Native Americans do. I offer the land something, so to speak. It's
Of
like
course.
offering
Yeah.
a spiritual offering type thing. Like tobacco or something
Y-
that you kind of give the land, and I
Yeah.
think Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever name you want to call him, picks up on that. I think this not just super intelligent, but I think it's very super sensitive as well.
Yeah.
And
Don't
they
come up
can
in
really
these,
pick up on your intentions.
yeah, don't come up in these hills empty handed. Bring something for Bigfoot. Uh, yeah, I see Cheese says Bigfoot likes tobacco, and I hear certain elementals and certain spirits do as well. So yeah, bring your tobacco. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, there's talks about Bigfoot and chokeweed, which is fascinating. Some of I believe, forget
Mhm.
what tribe up in Canada has talked about some sort of chokeweed and Bigfoot. So look
I hear
into
he
that.
likes. I hear he likes rabbit tobacco. You know what rabbit tobacco is,
No,
right?
what's that?
Yeah, yeah.
What's the rabbit?
It's just a weed, and you really
Hmm.
can't smoke it, but it doesn't really do anything. It's terrible, tastes terrible. But I hear he likes it,
All
and
right.
not smoking it. I think he likes to chew it.
Yeah.
And I know this weed. I can't think of the name of it. I have to get a picture for you and get you a picture of it so you can see it next time you're out in the field. They say they like that he likes to chew this stuff, sort of like chewing tobacco. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no, the skunk cabbage comes up. There's other plants. Of course, berries come up with Bigfoot. But I've also heard, what was it? What was I thinking of? There was something I was gonna say, and maybe that file is buffering in my head here. We'll we'll get back to that. Uh but yeah, no, you hear about these things, so it's interesting. And I'm not saying that they smoke. Oh yeah, that the natives. Here we go. That there's certain natives that used to trade with Bigfoot, and they would trade different things, and one of them being tobacco. And they say, and I do believe that tobacco is
I imagine
medicinal.
that would be.
So
I
so that
imagine
yeah, not
tobacco would be on the menu.
yeah. So they're probably not using it like cigarettes, they're probably using the tobacco like
Well,
many native.
tobacco has medicinal properties to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I hear it's good for
Put on a bee
parasites.
sting, put on a bee sting and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of medicinal stuff to tobacco, and I was even hearing people going off on nicotine the other day, pointing out certain positive things about nicotine. Um, yeah, and then also what comes to mind is the whole Albert Osman situation. You remember that one up in Canada where he turned into sack lunch. He was sleeping in a sleeping bag, I believe it was, and a Bigfoot came and picked him up, carried him off, and next thing he knows,
Yeah.
he's in a Bigfoot camp, basically, surrounded by a family of Bigfoots being held hostage. But they say that the way he got away was that he somehow uh, gave one of them, or somehow one of them got into his tobacco snuff, which makes me think if Bigfoot did have a thing with tobacco,
remember that.
How would the snuff? Yeah, why would the snuff be the issue? Bigfoot's used to the tobacco. Anyway, but yeah, I heard it was one of the young
Well,
ones.
they
Probably got
probably
into it.
have they probably have a definite connection to tobacco thanks to Native Americans,
Or maybe
probably
even
traded
before
with them
them.
on that and gave them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, we're steering the
Yep.
ship here. Doc is also the captain tonight. Where are we headed next, Doc?
Well, that's interesting, but I'm gonna bring up something else since you do spend a lot of time, out in the woods and stuff like I used to do. I don't get to do it as much as I used to, but the one thing you got to be. Have you ever run into what you think were any kind of ritual sites out there?
Yeah, I found some weird stuff in the woods before. Nothing too gnarly, but the most recent was actually here locally in Los Angeles, which is I don't know. I guess it's kind of expected. I mean, you got Hollywood here. A lot of strange information coming out of Hollywood lately. It's a weird scene. And so you would think some of this occult stuff and just all the history here with the, Los Angeles and yeah, there's been some dark moments. And so yeah, there's, talks of different types of cults and actually California has a whole lot of different ET and alien UFO/UFO cults, even if you're trying to get into some of those types of cults. So we got it all here. Anyway, and some other more well-known cults out here that also tie into the whole alien ET stuff. Y'all could probably guess which one it is. And starts with the science. Could probably finish the rest of that, but little hint.
Scientology, yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird because I was checking out some of the Scientology buildings out here since I've been out, and a lot of them seem to be like these old world buildings once again. So there's that whole subject that comes up with that, and yeah, I believe I've heard Scientologists believe in possibly extraterrestrials of some sort on certain levels. So yeah, interesting stuff there, and that also gets into yeah, other characters that you were mentioning
Well, a lot of
earlier.
people don't. A lot of people don't realize, Doris. A lot of people don't realize Scientology is connected to supposedly alien consciousness and all that stuff. Very much like the real society I mentioned earlier.
Yes, yeah, you were just saying the
Scientology
Vril.
is supposed to kind of tap into alien consciousness or something like that.
Yes, and you mentioned, yeah, the Vril was I was saying you talked about some people earlier, but I believe so Vril, was there any connection, so Vril, is that Madame Blavatsky? Was she part of that? Or she was another group? I'm not sure, but, Vril, was that, Crowley? Did Crowley have anything to do with the Vril? I don't know, Vril.
Oh yeah, and Jack Parsons. Jack
Parsons, right?
Parsons was
We talked about
yeah.
Yeah, we talked about Parsons last time, and there's a whole other thing that I want to do with Parsons lived like 15 minutes from where I am right here in Pasadena. And we talked about all that last
Oh
time,
really?
I think. I believe, yeah, I
Oh, yeah.
believe we talked about the whole Jack Parsons because NASA is right here in South Pasadena. It's 15 minutes away from where I am right here. And
Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
yeah, JPL, NASA, and I believe we got all into this last time. There's a particular area I want to go explore called the Devil's Gate Dam, and it's right here, and it's where
Oh yeah,
Parsons, yeah,
yeah.
where
They're
where
supposed to be very careful around that, my friend, because there's supposed to be a lot of weird, strange disappearances taking place around there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the disappear. I wouldn't doubt it, but actually, I want to go explore it people have explored it, and there is a dam there. There's an actual dam, and uh it's where I guess Parsons and some of his boys were blowing up stuff. And so
Well, there he is. He supposedly opened a portal there.
yeah, to
Yeah.
hell. Yeah, and that's why it got the name Devil's Gate Dam. So that's right here. So we'll go check out.
Yeah.
And actually, I went to go check out this area right around there. It's called Gravity. It's a Gravity Hills. We have Gravity Hills all over the place, or some places, but it seems like every state seems to have one of these Gravity Hills where you're on a hill and you put the car in neutral and it starts moving for you. So we did a live stream of that up here, and which is right at the
Another one of those liminal places, Definitely.
Yeah.
They pop up everywhere.
Well, it's interesting because one of the entrances to Devil's Gate Dam is right on that road, I believe. So, but that time I didn't go to the dam. I was more focused on finding the Gravity Hill. And so, yeah, we did that, and it was super cool to do that on a live stream. Luckily, I had a service up there. And so, yeah, you'll see a lot of videos like that on the channel, checking out these places, kind of just raw, live. Sometimes I'll make videos and work on them a little bit. I'm learning to put videos together, and yeah, I love documenting, and so stuff like that. So I've been really wanting to check out Devil's Gate Dam, and recently we had the Eaton Fire, which is right near
If
all
I
that area.
ever get out there, that's where we're heading, brother.
Oh yeah, anytime, anywhere you said you like the coast, I will be more than happy, Doc, to take you to all these places. we gotta figure that out. Garrel's gotta get the private jet out. I mean, what's going on, Garrel? Let's get the private jet going. Get the airship out. I know Garrel has an old world airship in the backyard somewhere. Let's get it out, Garrel. Get Chi on there.
That's what I need. Yeah, definitely. That's
Be the floating ark. Bring the animals and pick us up, because there's places we want to go and see and document. So let's make that happen.
Well, hopefully Elon is listening tonight, okay, and he can maybe shoot us a little dough on that. Yeah,
you listening, Mark?
We'll tell Elon we don't want to go to Mars. We just want to go to Devil's Gate. Definitely check
it out. And we want to make it back. So, but yeah, no, it would be awesome, Doc, to take you up to I believe NASA, JPL. They do tours. Well, maybe I wouldn't doubt if NASA has a jump room to Mars there. There's rumors of several jump rooms to Mars here in the LA area.
Yeah. I saw a website named, and here's the name of it: Casualties of Mars. You ever heard of it? That was neat. Neat title.
Yeah, Casualties of Mars. Well, I do think something
real big on Mars. I don't know if you and he lived out there in California, and that was Ray Bradbury.
Yeah, no, I do think there's something to Mars.
He was great, one of my favorite authors. Matter of fact, I knew his cousin and met his aunt one time. His aunt lived in this town where I live.
Trip out.
Yeah. He was big on Mars, but I don't know how many stories about Mars. That may be where Elon got some of that.
Yeah, well, no, they say Elon got a Venus thing going on or something like that. I think it is. It's one of those planets. Anyway, it's a fun ride. It's been a fun ride. I'm enjoying this lifetime, and I'm glad to be meeting a lot of you, and hopefully get to meet you in person. I think anything is possible, Doc. So I mean, if we really put our minds to it, we could really get you out here. And we'll get you to some places. We got to make that'd be my. I think that would be living. That we didn't have to go to work. We could all just travel around and follow our passions. Want to go do what we want to go do. Right?
On Mount Shasta, maybe we'd camp out on Mount Shasta.
Yeah, we could do Shasta. Believe me. I know how to maneuver through areas around there, so we could do that. We'll take you to the redwoods, of course, and yeah, we'll try to hang out with Sasquatch.
Absolutely.
Bring him a cigar. Don't forget that.
There you go. Bring me one anyway. But anyway,
Hey, we
yeah,
got you.
that's neat. I used to smoke. Oh, I used to smoke cigars a lot back in the days when I used to smoke. That was my favorite thing. Big old the big King Edward cigars. Yes, sir.
Ooh,
Anyway, I also cut them up sometimes, put them in my pipe. That was a good way
right
to
on.
smoke them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
my my queen's dad, I call my lady my queen because she's my queen. Uh, he was a hardcore tobacco dude,
that's
had
good.
his tobacco pipe. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You couldn't tell. We call him grandpa, and grandpa, and it was this flavored tobacco, and that I like the smell of tobacco. Some of these flavored tobaccos as well.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it reminds me. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Dodger Stadium when I was a kid, and
Oh
so I
yeah.
remember
You have a
being, yeah,
memory.
Dodger Stadium. And our grandpa, my biological grandfather, actually used to be our plug to get into Dodger Stadium because he was a musician and he knew a lot of the ball players.
Ah,
The type of music he played, a lot of the ball players actually were into it, so he was really good friends with them. And he would get us Dodger tickets and stuff. And at that time, we played a lot of baseball too, so we were really into the
inside.
baseball thing. But, yeah, Dodger Stadium, smell of cigars, yeah, it takes me back there. Also, there's been talks of bringing up Dodger Stadium. There's been talks. I did a little live stream a few weeks back, and we were looking at Dodger Stadium, Elysian Park on a map, and it just looked like, uh, there's something there. It's on a hill, and there's this guy that supposedly said that there's some sort of gold buried under Dodger Stadium. Who knows? But this underground cavern system that people have talked about of these supposed or possibly ancient civilization that lived under Los Angeles. One of the cavern entrances, supposedly according to this map, starts at Elysian Park, where Dodger Stadium is. And so when I was doing this live stream, I was bringing that up because I had just done a small exploration of this church that I think you might be very interested in, called Angelus Temple. And Angelus Temple was, I believe, the first and biggest. I forget the type of church it was, but we actually used to attend the church, and it's actually, there's a side for Spanish speaking people and another side for the English. But it got my attention because I was like, Angelus Temple. Someone had featured it as an
Was that
old
an
world.
old mission or something? Was that a
It's
mission?
not it's, I don't think it's a mission, no, but it's this old, it's a temple, and yeah, it's got these huge pillars in front of it, and I was like, oh yeah, it is an old world building. And so I went to go explore it, and of course, across the street from it, you have Echo Park, which is a well-known community and park here in Los Angeles, and it's got this a little, I guess we could call it a big pond or a small, yeah, big pond, and a fountain on it, which is all things that for me were red flags uh, pertaining to the old world topic and Angelus Temple. So I think there was a lot more old world buildings in that area. And so I was doing an exploration, boots on the ground of all that. And yeah, Elysian Park, Dodger Stadium came up, and I don't know where we're going with this. I guess we're going back underground here. But yeah, it's some interesting stuff. So just some of the things that been floating through my head here. And yeah, I've been sharing it out. And yeah, I sometimes get some pretty interesting feedback from folks, and sometimes I don't get anything, which is, it's all good. But yeah, we keep at it and keep sharing our thoughts, our findings, our ideas, and yeah, in hopes that we could find others that are doing the same and may be able to match up certain things, certain information. Yeah, I love collaborating. I love seeing people collaborate, and I feel that that's another way that we could get once again, some of these answers we got questions to.
That sounds interesting very much. That's sort of what we used to call urban exploration. You know, you go into these old places, look around, it's always fascinating. I've always enjoyed doing some of that. By the way, you know what? The Elysian fields. I always thought that was a beautiful word. But anyway, it's sort of like the Asgard with the Vikings. Yeah. Sort of like
What's
that.
that?
And we were talking about that the other day. I won't get on that tonight, but it's fascinating some of the connections between the Viking stuff and the Greek stuff. It's amazing. There had to be some type of influence going on there with that. Absolutely. Well, this has been fascinating, my friend. It's always great when we get together. You got anything you want to talk about
Yeah,
before we close out?
yeah. Well, actually, you're mentioning. So you're saying the Elysian. So see, that's another thing we got to look at. So bringing all this up, the name Elysian. So what does that mean? You're saying some sort of Viking connection there. So I find that pretty interesting. I'm gonna definitely be looking into that and see where that takes us. But yeah, no. We could keep this going and let's keep it going. Let's do this again. I think this is the third time I've been on with you, and it's just always a good time. And especially of freestyling these, we had nothing planned. We're just letting the spirit guide us, and it was a good one. So I just hopefully someone learned something. Maybe we get a little feedback from somebody out there. And yeah, any support you need, Doc, you got mine. And I went ahead and shared this out on several platforms, and hopefully we attract some traffic there. And yeah, I want to say thank you once again. I appreciate you. Stay safe, and to everyone else out there as well.
Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that, and I really appreciate you too. And we will definitely be getting together again in the future, not too far out. We'll have some more discussions. Absolutely, and it's good to that we can touch bases. And none of this, and that's the way I've always looked at it. It's not, you know, it's nothing but cooperation. It's not, competition to me. It's always cooperation in a way, and the more transference of information we can have, the more we can get out and talk about these subjects, and get the feedback from the public and all of the thing. It's great stuff, absolutely. But I guess a friend like you, it's just like sitting over a table. We can't be there physically, but we're close to it. Okay, so we're sitting there at the table, maybe drinking coffee and just talking stuff out here. Okay, that's the way I like
Hey,
it.
yeah, we're here virtually and spiritually. So yeah, hopefully soon we can make things happen in the flesh. And I'm working the angles over here. If something major happens, and then I'm able to make it out your way. Hey, I'll be visiting you, Doc, and everyone else out there.
Well, if you ever do
Yeah,
now, you got an open invitation to dinner, and I will give you the grand tour. Okay.
thank you, sir. I appreciate that. How about that? I like that.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you being on here tonight, brother,
Anytime,
and you
Doc.
take care of yourself out there. Keep your eyes open, keep that head on swivel now, okay, and keep an eye on your six, and be careful out there. Everywhere is getting to be a little bit more dangerous for everyone nowadays, and so
Hmm.
we got to be aware of that so much more. But you're walking in the light, my friend, and that's where you need to be. Definitely, you are a light worker and a light walker. Okay, and that's where you got to be, and that will keep a lot of this bad mojo off of you. Okay, definitely. And we will definitely keep you in our prayers, though, and you be careful out that way. And we,
Likewise.
we will be checking in with you again real soon.
Please do. One love, everyone.
All right, take care of yourself. Bye bye. That's Bigfoot dwarf there. That's a good friend of mine. I really enjoy talking with him. I always do. We have some fascinating discussions. Absolutely. And we'll get him back on here again very soon and see what else we can get into. And I want to thank everybody tonight for the support. for people who have bought some memberships for us, and those who have financially supported, whatever, and just being here is your support. It's fantastic. Okay, trust me, I really appreciate all that you're doing to help this channel. This is 101. Okay, we're pushing onward, pushing out and onward, and hopefully we'll get there. As long as we got you guys on our side, definitely. Some people we think that aren't friends, we find out they're not really friends, And let me say this. I don't have a whole lot of friends. I don't work on quantity. I work on quality. All right. And that's the way I like it. And you are definitely quality, my friends. Absolutely. And I appreciate you all so very much. Please check out our brother Gerald Fountain's channel and his Rumble channel. Check him out. And on check out his store while you're at it. Check that out. And I also did a recent interview on Miami Ghost Chronicles. And as soon as I find out about that and when it's going to be out, it was a taped thing. It was recorded. I will definitely let everybody know. It was a fantastic interview. And with Marlene is her name. She's a real nice, sweet lady. And we had a great time together. So I will let you know when that comes out. Monday, we will definitely be here with the road less traveled. We'll see what we come up with on that. And maybe next week we'll see what happens with hunting the shadows. Okay. And I want to also remind everybody I do have a cryptid group. Okay. It is called Southeastern Cryptid Investigations, SCI. Okay. And anybody that's interested in all this stuff, membership is free in that if you'd like to join. It's on Facebook. And it has been around since about 1978 was when it was founded. So that's how old this group is. So you're welcome to come aboard on that if you find this stuff interesting. So we've got different ways for you to hook up. We also have, the American Institute for Paranormal Research and Investigation. And we also have the Legend Trackers Society. So we've got several groups you can join up with. Absolutely. I started a new one. It's called Monstrum Venators are Us. That's Monster Hunters are Us. And that's another one that you can group. So I've got a hub of groups going on out there, definitely. So you got some stuff we can keep you occupied with. And by the way, that movie I mentioned is a scary one, okay? And it's called Night Flyer, The Night Flyer. It's based on a Stephen King story, by the way, but I think you will be able to find a copy of it on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. So check it out if you get a chance. And we appreciate you all tonight. Thank you for joining Bigfoot Dwarf and myself. We had a fascinating discussion, and thank you so much. Appreciate you all, and take care till we get together again. Remember, faith over fear, and non-tembo mala, fear no evil. Let us remember to seize the night, my friends, and walk in the light. Okay, until we get together again then. Godspeed and ciao.
I walked in a room cold as the tomb. Ghosts whispered secrets of doom. Eyes wide open, felt the gloom.